that just a couple of days ago, I saw that Pramila Jayapal and a lot of other members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus were already throwing their weight behind Joe Biden for 2024. And it's like he hasn't even announced his reelection. I mean, he's almost certainly going to run again, but you're already ruling out the potential of somebody even posing some sort of a challenge to him to try to shift the Overton window and throwing your weight behind him. So I thought that was kind of funny as well.
Because they don't want to shift it. But what's the matter? You don't think that if we just vote for some more blue people, just vote for some more blue people. If you get all the blue people in there, everything will be fine.
And even
Problem solved.
And even if you don't, think that there's enough viability to somebody like Marianne Williamson, just the idea that you should have a primary. What about just not getting involved? Like, I really don't understand this idea that, Biden's presidency has been a borderline failure in so many ways. And to me, I think
that's generous.
Yeah. And the biggest reason he's been a failure is because of what he's done with labor. I mean, you want to talk about a president who's basically, he is channeling Reagan and has been for quite some time. And people don't want to talk about it. And
he wrote the crime bill. He wrote the crime. Like this, he is a look, I am so tired. These are not Democratic people.
You saw DeSantis's basically his what I consider to be his intro advertisement for running for president. I'm sure you saw it, which was basically an homage to Reagan. It's like we've gotten to the point now where we will have two disciples of Reagan to vote for president, and thinking that we haven't come far enough. And yet I'm looking at the Progressive Caucus, and I could give a damn what Pramila Jayapal does. We all know who we're talking about. The fact is, there was so much help that was provided, whether it was to Alex, to Corey, to Rashida, to Graval, Kana, we can go on and on. But there isn't this principled stand of just saying, listen, let things play itself out. Whereas on the Republican side,
they like a good bloodbath over there. But they love that. I wish but also we always say this, Democrats are so much less democratic. Republicans don't super delegates.
But don't they know that this is going to hurt the Democrats?
They don't care.
24?
What are your thoughts? Like, they don't care.
Yeah, no, I mean, of course they don't care. But I mean, the difference I would say is that, like, in the Republican Party, you could have some sort of a challenger, whether it's like Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, any one of these, even like John Bolton or Mike Pompeo. And, the corporate backers who are financing both of our political parties, they don't care if it's, Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley or Donald Trump. I think they maybe don't like Donald Trump as much because, he's a little bit more of a wild card and they like to just maintain a steady status quo. Correct. But like on the right, it's like, they're able to have a lot more of that infighting because at the end of the day, they're all serving the exact same economic agenda. Whereas, with Democrats, it's like, you have somebody like Marianne Williamson in the race, or was also going back to like, Bernie Sanders, people who like kind of want to push for actual like structural reform to at least some degree in this country. I mean, still obviously they're capitalists and all of that, but pushing for some structural reform. And that's an entirely different conversation because then on the left, you are actually challenging, those centers of power. You're challenging our institutions. You're challenging the system from within. And so it's like, yeah, of course, Democrats are never going to allow for that conversation, that debate with Marianne Williamson or any other left-wing candidate to actually take place because they're challenging the donor class, essentially. So,
yeah, well, they get rid of them as challengers before the debate process. Like it'll be very different. And I think that's also why you're not finding out for sure whether or not Joe's running again. They're going to keep it unknown for as long as they possibly can, because any of the usual people like your Pete's or Kamala's or any of those drones, they won't get in if Biden might get in, right? So this is just keeps it so that we're not even having to have this discussion. We're not even having it. We just assume Joe's running. So there's no need to even talk about this.
Why do you think the left movement of any kind has been defanged so dramatically over the past couple of years?
I mean, it's a complicated question. I don't think that I could sum it up just in the last couple of years, because I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I mean, we're talking about like decades and decades and decades of, the establishment decimating our labor movement, destroying unions and, worker power in every way, shape or form, targeting civil rights movements and, liberation movements as well. And just sort of like bearing down on any sort of even mildly left-wing movements within this country. So we're sort of like coming to, I guess, sort of like like the tail end of this like neoliberal era crash right now, where people want like drastic change in one direction or another. But, it's a lot more difficult when you're on the left, as opposed to just being like some poser, a right-wing populist who, like Donald Trump, for example, who's going around and talking about how, terrible NAFTA was and how terrible the Iraq war was, and talking about a whole bunch of things that are 100% worthy of criticism. But, he doesn't have any legitimate answers to any of those any of those, foreign policy issues. But, when you're on the left, it's a lot more difficult to actually build that movement because you're serious about tackling all of those various issues. You have to do it from the ground up. Again, you're working from behind because we've had decades of, the decimation of left-wing movements in this country. And so we have to like figure out a way to like claw our way back into the game right now and, actually build up like a viable labor movement, actually build up grassroots organizations and, utilizing direct action and mobilizing in effective ways. And that's still a lot of stuff that we're trying to figure out as we go. But, we are working from behind. We have to remind ourselves of that, is that this is not, it was never supposed to be an easy process. It was never supposed to be like, a quick process. Like, this is something we have to be invested in for the long run and be serious about it. But in terms of like the last couple of years, I think that seeing, especially for me, because I'm pretty young, and watching, Bernie Sanders get absolutely shafted twice in a row by the DNC, by the corporate class within the Democratic Party, watching that unfold kind of like decimates almost your belief in like the political system that we have right now. And, that's when, again, we have to turn to like other avenues. And I think if I was going to lean on anything to give me even like a moderate amount of hopium in a moment like this for the left, it would be definitely the sort of like resurgence of the modern American labor movement with all of these different unionization attempts and all of that. So that's why I like covering that stuff on my channel so much, is because that's where real power resides in this country. And I think that would be our best weapon if we on the left can figure out a way to actually use collective worker power as an effective weapon directly against the ruling class within this country, directly against corporate America, instead of having to use like proxies through corrupt political systems and through corrupt politicians, and just going directly to the source and trying to extract some of those demands that we all deserve.
And I think that is exactly what Shama Sawant and this organization the Workers Strike Back, that is what I am hoping is basically what that will do, is sort of coalesce a bunch of unions and individual labor areas, because we're so disjointed. The idea of even having a general strike is just so far gone. The idea of coordinating, the fact that the railroad unions were able to coordinate 12 unions was like a miracle. Yeah. Like that was pretty new that even was able to happen. So it is slow going, but I feel somewhat hopeful that there's so many different like things happening. We're not seeing it as much, obviously, on corporate media, because they don't want people to know that this is going on, but it is, and it's global. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.